What's up, Tesla family? This is Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY and the broader markets. I'm going to break down why Tesla and the markets are pumping in the after hours because Nvidia is absolutely crushing their earnings and running. And this is having a very, very big ripple effect for Tesla and many other tech stocks. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link that's down below or use my QR code right here to sign up. If you sign up for Moomoo with the link down below and deposit $100, you're going to get $20 of free Nvidia stock. If you deposit $2,000, you're going to get $50 worth of Nvidia. Deposit $10,000 to get $300 worth of the stock. Deposit $50,000 to get $1,000 worth of Nvidia. You're also going to qualify for an 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. The offer ends very soon, so please check out my link down below to sign up. There's only about 2 weeks left for this offer. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with Tesla and the markets. So we have lots of data coming out for tomorrow that could cause some volatility, but the first main factor would be Nvidia's earnings, and Nvidia is pumping right now. It's currently up about 5% in the after hours. It's pumping after earnings have come out, and I did tell you all that I believed that as long as Tesla held 390, we'd likely be looking for a nice bounce. I also said that for SPY and the QQQ, I was expecting some kind of pivot off these lows because this was the 0.786 fib level. And simultaneously, this was the 5% mark for SPY and the QQQ, the same technical setup. And as a result, as long as we could hold the levels we're at, I think we continue to pump on SPY and the QQQ. We gap up tomorrow. It does also depend on some data, so I'll talk about everything in this video. So with SPY, the QQQ, Nvidia, and tech all pumping, Tesla's following the trend. It's up 1.45% in the after hours. And I think if we could hold above 410 tomorrow, we could look for an attempt for 420 next. Of course, we need some confirmation, but there is most definitely potential in Tesla stocks. So let's break this down. There was some news that came out for Tesla that the robotaxis are going to eventually be hitting the streets in Arizona because they received a permit to begin the ride-hailing services in the state this week. The permit is Tesla's final hurdle to launch its robotaxi service in the state, and also received approval to test its autonomous vehicles with a safety driver behind the wheel last month. This is some good news for Tesla as they're expanding in Arizona, and they will eventually be, once again, using these autonomous pieces of technology in Arizona and more regions. And then eventually they're going to be straight up launching the robotaxi there. It's going to be very profitable and very great for Tesla stock. Now, for Tesla, we had a very, very big buy rating that came out from Stifel, and the share price is starting to bounce a little bit after dropping so much. This is the price-price ratio that tells us that Tesla lost some strength, but now it's starting to gain some strength because we're holding support. Besides that, also know one more thing. Look at the price comparison between Tesla and SPY, right? The S&P 500 and Tesla, they tend to pump together, dump together, pump together. Now they've been dipping together for the last couple of weeks. But now, as I'm speaking, they are starting to bounce together, which tells us that Tesla likes to follow the market. On top of this, when it comes to seasonality, Thursdays tend to not be the strongest of days for Tesla. We only tend to be green about 47% of the time. But after so much downside, we will see if Tesla could try to get some kind of bounce, at least from here. So what's happening? Why is Tesla bouncing with the market? Why is Nvidia up so much? It's currently up 5.1% right now, and it's still climbing as I speak. Let's talk about Nvidia's earnings, why this is important for Tesla, and what this means for tomorrow as we have more data coming out. For the earnings calendar, okay, we basically just had Nvidia announce its earnings. Then tomorrow we have Walmart. This is going to be very, very crucial. Walmart could cause a little bit of volatility for retail, but I think Nvidia is the biggest company right now because Nvidia, keep in mind, is one of the biggest companies on the planet. It's also so involved in so many different companies, meaning that Nvidia is involved with Tesla, right? Tesla buys Nvidia's chip for their different chips for AI learning. And then Nvidia is also involved with Microsoft, with Google, with all these different companies. They have very, very close ties with them, and these companies depend on Nvidia for the chips. So of course, it's going to be causing a lot of volatility for the markets. And if Nvidia breaks out, the market typically follows it. So that's why Nvidia is very important. Let's talk about earnings. Jensen Huang was speaking, and he gave us some very, very good news. First and foremost, We saw their earnings beat expectations. The EPS was at $1.30 adjusted, beating the expectation of $1.25 from Wall Street. Revenue was at $57 billion above the $54.92 billion estimated by Wall Street. They also expect about $65 billion in sales in the current quarter versus $61.66 billion expected from Wall Street. So everything is strong for them, strong growth, strong forecast. Net income is up 65% to $31.91 billion. That's a lot more than the $19 billion we saw last year. Also, Nvidia is very important as it has insatiable demand for its AI chips called GPUs. It's going to be providing for Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Oracle, Tesla, Meta, and all these different companies are their customers. Its chips are also used by leading tech companies to develop AI models, and its sales and outlook look very, very strong. There's been a lot of talk about an AI bubble, according to Jensen Huang, the CEO, and he told us that he sees something very, very different from their vantage point. He's telling us, don't worry, they're still looking very strong. Their data center is very strong. Their AI learning is strong, and there is insane demand for their GPUs. This is their revenue. Look at the revenue on Nvidia is just continuing to expand like crazy. It's continuing to grow like crazy, and he's telling us that they're doing very, very well. Now, let me just say that it's possible Nvidia is in a bubble. It likely is in one, but it does not look like the bubble is popping yet. I don't think we're ready to see it pop yet. It could take another year or two. We're not ready for the bubble to pop yet. I'm going to make another video about that later on. I don't think we're ready yet, and for now, Nvidia is trying to bounce. On top of that, Nvidia was disappointed with the fact that it can't ship its current generation Blackwell chips to China, but it is what it is because there is very strong earnings, and the fact that they made a $12.5 billion worth of share repurchases and paid $243 million in its dividends during the quarter, it really offsetted a lot of that negative news involving China. On top of this, Jensen Huang said that the Blackwell sales are off the charts. Their GPUs are sold out. The cloud GPUs are sold out. They're absolutely crushing it. They're important for the AI boom. Once again, if they say AI, the share price goes up. Tesla is pumping. Nvidia is pumping. We're doing a great job so far. So that's why the market is pumping in the after hours after selling off today. And if we could sustain these levels tomorrow, I do expect us to go higher. Now, why did the market sell off today? We did sell off initially, and then we saw a nice bounce with Nvidia. There is one important thing I want to talk about. So, when it comes to the Fed, they are still indecisive. The majority of policymakers want to see another cut, but they're not sure about December. Some think that December is not appropriate. Others think that, yes, it is a good time for us to cut. It all depends on data, and that's why the Fed is very cautious for now. There was some negative news that also came out. The October employment report has been canceled, and the November report will come out later. The November report will come out on December 16th instead of December 5th, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So, not the best of news as some data will be canceled. The data for tomorrow is still coming out, though. That's different. This data is going to be for September. The last thing I'm going to say is this: tomorrow is going to be Thursday, November 20th, 2025. All right. At 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, an hour before the stock market opens, we have the non-farm payrolls, the unemployment rate, the labor force participation rate, some payrolls data, and some more unemployment numbers from the Philly Fed. Lots of data comes out an hour before market open, especially unemployment. And this is delayed data because it's from September. This is old data coming out, and we're going to see if this affects the markets. We also have existing home sales, a couple of Fed speakers such as Cook giving speeches, and that's pretty much it. But the main time for volatility will be in the morning to see what happens with the unemployment numbers. Do they cause the market to pump or dump? We'll see about that. So what do I think is going to happen? Well, it also depends on the unemployment numbers coming out for tomorrow. But I just want to say right now the market is trying to pump and Tesla is showing some resilience. Um, if you look at the 4 hour, this is a good setup because what's good about Tesla is that before, when you look at Tesla, Tesla was doing this lower high, lower low, lower high right here, lower low. We were just dumping, dumping, dumping like this on a downtrend, right? But as of recent, Tesla is doing this. We're basically seeing this big dump that happened on Friday. Tesla touched 380. We bounced. Then we made a higher low. We held 390 today. and then we started to bounce. Or sorry, not today. That was actually on Tuesday, so that was yesterday. We held 390, and then today we made another higher low. So now it looks like Tesla's trying to pivot and it wants to go higher like this. That's what the setup is trying to do. On the 30 minutes time frame, we also have a potential slanted inverse head and shoulders like pattern if we could break resistance. There is going to be a tough resistance near the 410s though, so be careful. But overall, there is potential. So hypothetically, okay, if we get really, really bad employment numbers, and if you want to be bearish on Tesla, just hypothetically, you want to see Tesla essentially lose not only 400, but basically 390. Take out the low we saw from Tuesday. If we lose that, then yes, we are going to be leaning more bearish, and we could retest these lows from last week. If we're bullish, I want to see Tesla hold 410. If that holds, I would not rule out an attempt for 420, the psychological 420 mark for Tesla, for more upside. What do I think is going to happen? Well, as long as we're above 400 and 410, we're favoring 420. Tesla is reaccumulating. It's looking more bullish. It looks like Nvidia is going to try to help this thing bounce. As long as Tesla does not have any bad news tomorrow for itself, we're favoring the 420 mark or above. And I think Tesla's doing a fantastic job at holding up. Now for SPY, okay, we're looking strong. It's not just because of Tesla itself, but because of the broader markets. Like I said earlier, okay, Tesla tends to follow the markets. Look at this data right here just one more time. Look at the price comparison between Tesla and SPY. When SPY in the market bounce, Tesla's going to likely follow the trend, and that's what's happening as well. Another big factor. That is why I put so much stress on SPY and ES, because it really affects Tesla when you watch the charts. So if you're bearish on SPY, you need to see us get back below at least 666. If that fails us, we could return to 663 or below. But as long as we're above 668, I think we easily push for 672, then 675 for the inverse head and shoulders. I said in my previous video, I was expecting that 655 was where SPY would bounce, which is exactly where we bounced. And I said we're going to be looking for some upside off an inverse head and shoulders. Lo and behold, we're bouncing with Nvidia. As long as we hold above 668 after the unemployment numbers come out, we're going to be favoring 672 or above. On the QQQ, same thing. We have an inverse head and shoulders. As long as we don't end up losing basically 603, we're going to be favoring upside. If 603 fails us, though, we could be dumping to the low 600s. But as long as that holds, we're going to be favoring an attempt for 612 and 615. I believe that because we're holding above 605, we're looking more bullish. As long as we don't lose 603 to dump, we're looking more bullish as well. And I think that we're looking for 612 as our target. If that breaks, I would not rule out 615 on the triple Q for the inverse head and shoulders. I think 612 to 615 is coming or above. On the IWM, get ready for a bounce. It looks like it wants to bounce a little bit. Not as strong as the QQQ right now, but it's trying to some extent. If we lose 233, we could be dipping to 230. If that fails us, we dump. But we also have resistance around 236. If that breaks, we're looking for an attempt for 238. And I think the odds favor more upside, so keep that in mind. On ES, we also have a left shoulder, head, and a right shoulder. As long as we don't end up losing essentially 6,700, if we do lose that, we could be looking for 6650. As long as we hold above 6,700, we're going to be favoring essentially 6,750 or above for some temporary upside. I think the odds are going to be favoring some upside. We have a left shoulder here, head, and a right shoulder. I think we could be looking for 6,750 or above for some temporary upside on ES. We're looking more bullish to me. The setup looks strong. On other tickers out there, we also happen to have NQ. Now, if NQ ends up losing support right here at 24,892, we're looking for a dip. But as long as we hold this, we're going to be favoring 25,138 or above. I think we're favoring 25,250 or even more upside. There's a left shoulder, head, and right shoulder. We're favoring upside on NQ. And I think that this imbalance could fill and we could be retesting these highs over here. On Bitcoin, we were showing some weakness. We dumped today. Now we're trying to bounce. I think we easily retest 92,426 or above for some temporary upside. And as long as Tesla holds 410, like I said, I think we could be going for 420 next. Tesla also could be affected by its own news. As long as there's no bad news, once again, I favor upside. The setup looks more bullish and we're favoring 420. Nvidia is up 5.14%. It looks like it wants to go higher. I think we're going to be trying to test 200. We'll see if that breaks, but overall, Nvidia looks fantastic. Also know that I was talking about these setups. I had this drawn out before Nvidia had this like bearish wedge and a consolidation, then broke out. This time we have a bearish wedge and a consolidation, but then we broke out again. So very similar pattern on Nvidia. The last time this happened, then we broke out. This time this happened, and now we're breaking out. So 200 plus is likely coming. On Aapl, we're kind of in the middle. We're not super strong on Aapl. If we lose 264, we're bearish. If we hold 270, we're bullish. I think 270 is going to be tested. If that breaks, we're looking for 272. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. Netflix has a double bottom. So long as we don't lose 108, we're going to be favoring a bounce for basically 112. For MSTR, there's a bullish divergence. So long as we don't lose 185, we're going to be favoring a push for 200 and then 204. So I see some upside potential. Celsius is also going to be favoring 42 as our target. If that breaks, we have a gap to fill back up to about 44 for some temporary upside. Supermicro has a triple bottom here. If that breaks, if we break resistance at 35.36, or sorry, 35.65, excuse me, guys. If that breaks, then we're looking for 36 next. There looks like there wants to be a temporary bounce like we were talking about. Palantir, if we break 172, we're looking for an attempt for 176. Rivian is favoring consolidation. It's stuck between support at 14.26 and resistance at 15.22. But I think it's going to try to go a bit higher with the market for 15.2. SoFi needs to break 27.64. If that breaks, we're looking for 28.38 next. AMD, it's trying to bounce. I see a test of 237 coming. If that breaks, we're looking for 242. Can't guarantee it breaks, but there's potential. ARM is favoring upside back up towards 144. We'll see if that breaks. PayPal is trying to bounce, looking for an attempt for 62 plus. Coinbase is going to be favoring 272 as our potential target for more upside if we hold above 265 for a temporary bounce. Amazon's bouncing. I want to see us hold above 225. If that holds, I'm looking for 230 next. On Meta, we're favoring 602.5. If that breaks, we're looking for 608. I see some upside potential on this. Google's looking more bullish to me. We're going to be favoring essentially 304. Microsoft is looking more bullish. If we could hold above 492, I'm going to be favoring a push for 498. Oracle is looking more bullish. 234 is going to be our resistance, and then we have 240 next. So there's upside potential. And then DJT is on a downtrend, but we're going to see if we bounce back up towards like 10.8. The VIX is looking more bearish, is favoring a move back down towards 22. We're going to see if we bounce off that, but I do see some downside risk here. The 10 years looking more bullish, is favoring 4.17 as our potential target. There's also an inverse head and shoulders like pattern. We're going to see if this pumps more. The dollar index has resistance right here. We basically touched 100.3 and rejected one time. So the question is, do we reject off a similar level again and turn back down? It's possible this is like a double top and we're at resistance on the dollar. As the dollar dips, that tends to be bullish for the markets, and then crude is kind of flat. So with that being said, guys, that's it for my video. It looks like SPY and the QQQ are trying to bounce right now. We're looking more bullish, but it also depends on this data coming out. So we're going to see if the unemployment numbers help us continue. Most likely the market will continue to pump though, and we're favoring 672 to 675 on SPY, and then 612 to 615 on the QQQ. Most likely that's where we're heading towards. And as long as Tesla holds 410, I'm going to be favoring like 420 or even higher than that for a temporary bounce, because Tesla's holding up nicely. The daily has potential to retest these EMAs, and there's also a gap to fill up here around 430. So I think Tesla could try a temporary bounce. Let's see what news comes out for Tesla tomorrow, because usually Tesla has its own news. But for now, the setup looks more bullish, and it looks like Tesla wants to push with the markets. With that being said, I thank you all so much for listening. Please have an awesome rest of your guys' days. I'll be back tomorrow morning before market open to give you guys an update about this. And we'll see what happens with the unemployment numbers for tomorrow as we have big data coming out. But until then, Tesla has potential. The market's trying to bounce, and we'll see how well we end up holding up. Thank you for listening, and peace out.